Welcome to Comodo Live. Today we're going to be talking about advanced endpoint protection. I'm Greg Poston, Senior Director of Product Marketing for Comodo, and I'm really pleased to have with me today Salim Scafudo, who is the Director of Product Strategy for Advanced Endpoint Protection. So a little housekeeping first of all. We're going to do a little presentation here, talk to you about the product, and then at the end of the presentation we'll go into Q&A mode and we'll do a live chat and you can ask Salim all of your gory questions about Advanced Endpoint. So let's dive right in. Salim?
Yes?
What is Comodo Advanced Endpoint?
That's a great question. So the entire market is saying they have something that's advanced this, or the legacy vendors are saying just snap on something, and customers are kind of caught in the middle. Right. So what exactly is it is probably the most relevant question we can start with.
I would agree. I mean, so there are a lot of advanced endpoint products out there. What differentiates Comodo's offering from all the other noise out there?
Yeah. Well, I think that you see the noise coming from two different directions. The first is going to be the legacy antivirus vendors who have sort of made a living on known good and known bad and trying to classify sort of all that exists, and began really struggling with the unknown, and that led to investment and the uprising of a number of startups who said, a varying degree of silver bullets would solve that problem, and yet they don't seem to be able to replace the existing legacy competitors. Instead, they're just kind of stacking solutions and solving one problem while causing 3 or 4 more.
Right.
And that doesn't really help the customers for the most part.
Yeah, no, so the solution stacking is not the way to go.
It really isn't. Yeah.
So how does Comodo do it differently? I mean, so we're not solution stacking on there. So let's talk about a little bit in depth more about what the product really is.
Yeah. Yeah. So in Comodo's case, we have some unique talents and intellectual property and ideas and viewpoints that we bring to the market. The first of which is Comodo's strength as the world's largest certificate authority. So we have a unique insight into the world's known good and known good publishers, applications, even OS processes. And this is at the time the code was being created. So when it comes to not having to rely on malware classification, but being able to identify the good things in the environment, we're very talented at that. Likewise, we have about 85 million installations of endpoint security out in the market. 85 million? It's a huge number.
That's a huge number.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. When I first joined Comodo, I had to double check the stats on that. I was quite surprised.
Because that's a large number.
It's a large number, yeah. And what's great about that is it feeds the Comodo Threat Research Labs, or control, a significant amount of the world's known bad, especially on the consumer side, because everybody's home machine is twice as bad as the work machine.
Pretty much, yes.
Pretty much, yeah. And when you have this combination, it allows you a really good foundation for what we call a default deny platform, right? So if you can quickly and at low compute expense identify what is known good and what is known bad and allow or block that, then you've reduced the amount of overhead, especially on sensitive endpoints, physical and virtual, and that allows you then to allows us to do something called automatic containment.
Right.
And automatic containment is our patent pending way of saying if it's not known good or known bad, it's unknown, and automatically put it in a container. And this essentially jails it from accessing the resources on the machine it needs, if it's malware, to exploit and successfully attack that machine.
Okay.
And that's what attackers look for. They look for a way of getting on any random machine and then pivoting there towards your crown jewel, so to speak.
Yes. So it sounds like we have a really amazing foundation. This whole default deny platform.
Right.
How do we actually implement this? So what are the components that make up the advanced endpoint protection product?
So when you're looking at the overall solution for advanced endpoint, you have by default a cloud-based unified console that we call ITSM, or ITN Security Manager, and we call it that and give it its own sort of sub-brand name, if you will, because it unifies the IT device management, the challenges that folks are working with and tracking and keeping and patching and all the fun stuff, fun in quotation marks.
Yeah, all the stuff that's necessary but not so fun.
It's necessary but not so fun, right? And you don't necessarily have a whole nother head in your all too small IT teams. And that allows that to be merged together with security management. And that way, that can be looked at and managed in a holistic way instead of chopped up into different vendor solutions or even different parts of solutions from a single vendor. And the other component of that on the endpoint is a Comodo client, which can be deployed across lots of different platforms. That's Android and iOS and Windows and OS X and Linux is on the path here as well. So, these two make up, I think, the foundational component, and they're supported by Valkyrie.
Oh, Valkyrie. What's Valkyrie? I love the name.
Yeah, it's a cool name.
It's a pretty cool.
Yeah.
Valkyrie.
Well, so I'm glad you asked that question. So when we're looking at that foundation that we talked about for the default deny platform, right, known good and known bad, and then stuff that we don't know about, unknown, goes in the container. In that case, we could do what some vendors do, which is leave it in perpetual containment. But if it's something that is an unknown good application, you're messing with the resources you need to properly run that app, right?
Yep.
You're messing with productivity, usability, performance. That's not great.
No, that's bad.
And the other hand, if it's malware, why do you want to continue running it? You want to stop it.
I would like to get rid of it, yes.
As soon as possible, right? And we do that basically with two different techniques. One is Viroscope, which is a behavioral or machine learning model that's on the actual Comodo client itself.
Okay, so that's based in the actual Comodo client itself.
That's right.
On the platform it's running on.
That's right. Disconnected to the internet, that's there, and that's doing its job. The high-level kind of terms you can use for that would be machine learning and math, right? It's doing the profiling and action-based stuff. And to accelerate that process, we have something called Valkyrie. And Valkyrie is basically for 0 days and APTs. It allows us to, through this file analysis platform in the cloud, to help accelerate this verdict process. Because we don't rely upon malware classification or scoring or voting boxes, which affect accuracy and then productivity and everything else.
Sure.
Right? And so instead we have a verdict-based model. So we do not ever allow that unknown process or executable to touch the machine until we know exactly what it is. Until we convert that unknown good or unknown bad to known good and known bad.
All right, so let me see if I can get this. So if someone downloads a file and it's being protected by Comodo client, if it's unknown, we put it into containment.
That's right.
If it's unknown, we send it up to Valkyrie, and Valkyrie goes, oh, okay, it's either good or bad.
That's right.
And then communicates that information back to the client so that knowing good are allowed to run, knowing bad are blocked completely from running. I mean, they get rid of it. And then the ones that are in containment are only in containment for a very short amount of time before Valkyrie can figure out what it is.
Yeah, in fact, we take unknown files and we run them the least amount of time in container of any solution on the market. And that translates to a better user experience, least amount of resources that are required. So when it comes to performance, or if you care about your virtualization density, how many VMs and virtual desktop environments can I get out there? Times require more efficiency,
Absolutely.
and we're more sensitive to that compute cost, which makes us more affordable when it comes to dollars and cents.
So how long does Valkyrie usually take to do this analysis? I mean, you got this file; it could be very complex. It could take some time.
Yeah.
What's the average time it takes?
The average time it takes to complete the automated model, right? So Valkyrie is comprised of three parts: static analysis, dynamic analysis, and even human expert-based analysis.
Humans.
Humans.
Ooh, we got humans involved. I like that.
We've actually productized human expert analysts, which will always be smarter than the technology. We actually productized their core value directly into the product in a way that ensures nothing kind of falls through the cracks. But the static and dynamic analysis part of that, on average, is about 45 seconds, which is
45 seconds. That's
yes,
fast.
It's really fast. It's really, really fast. And that's about 5 times faster than competing solutions. And I know that from my own experience, having designed and run products elsewhere.
Your past history.
Yes,
okay.
Past history, exactly. So when you're looking at that model, even that past history and the rest of the market will say that it's all about speed, right? They're saying it's all about speed because they're living a gap where patient zero is being exposed to do that analysis. And in our case, because we have that container, we're allowing this unknown good thing or unknown bad thing, we don't know yet, we're allowing it limited access. So the user can interact with that.
Yep.
Right? If you need to save a file, you're doing this stuff in a container. But it's essentially jailed from the processor and the memory and all the rest of that stuff.
Yeah.
And in that case, your speed is important to get it out of container for performance, but not for protection.
Right.
Right? That patient zero is not going to happen with Comodo Advanced Endpoint Protection. So if you want to, if you're asking about, what's the biggest core differentiator, we don't have to expose you to identify unknown threats, and we can actually prevent things like ransomware, Tesla crypt, all the stuff that we're most concerned about in the media and in the boardrooms alike.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Now, we're saying we're containing these things. We're basically running them in kind of a jailed environment.
Right.
Isn't that kind of resource intensive? I mean, I download 5 different files. They're all unknown. I got all these things running in containment.
Right.
And aren't I going to get a giant performance hit on my machine? I mean, I only have an i3 processor, and so,
Yeah. No, it's a great question. Again, going back to financial efficiency is, since the recession is a really important thing, right? So when we're looking at most solutions, they require specialized hardware. They'll only support modern operating systems and so on. And in our case, if there are advanced like Intel VT chipset and you have an i7 processor, great. We identify and take advantage of that and increase performance. Cool. But in our case, we have no specialized hardware requirements. We'll run everything from XP, Windows Vista, Vista. Yeah. We'll run on Windows, servers, 32-bit, 64-bit, basically everything. Every different flavor of Windows is supported in that case. And that kind of blanket coverage also starts to extend out to, again, IT and security management, the rest of your mobile devices, BYOD, as well as assets we hand out. So from a performance perspective, we're very sensitive to that. And that model is is markedly different than what most vendors do, which is they're trying to either take the entire every plugin from the AV stack, from the AV vendors, and they'll stick it on there. And we all know what that does to performance. We've probably all been there and done that. And then we're looking at the folks who are saying, no, my silver bullet will kill the werewolf, right? Which is about as real as the werewolves they're intended to kill.
There's a lot of werewolves out there.
Apparently, with all the silver bullets. So in that case, right, what we have is a situation where virtualization or micro VMs are trying to be used by vendors, emulation, and in those models, they're either constricting the applications that they include in analysis because of the performance and how hard it is for them to support those models. But we're significantly less resource intensive than any of those models. At a resting state, for example, one data point is we only use 10 megs of RAM in a resting state.
That's pretty small.
Yes. Well, if you're going to support stuff all the way back to Windows XP and Vista,
yes,
you need to work.
You need to be small. I mean, my XP machine only has 256 meg of RAM. So
that's right. That's right. And so when you're looking at a situation like that, because the Comodo client is very modular, you can decide what components are appropriate for different protection. It's all profile and group-based, so you can be very granular in what type of protections or IT management that you apply to a certain machine. So you have that flexibility for performance and sensitivity. But if you wanted to run these on your VDI machines or a Horizon, right, the virtual environments, client and server, if you wanted to run these on kiosk machines or something like that, you could really put it wherever you need.
So wherever you really need that protection, we can deploy it there.
That's right.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So let me kind of summarize here. So Comodo Advanced Endpoint Protection is made up of ITSM,
right,
which does all of the device management, policy management, security profile management, all of that. Right. We have Comodo Client, which is the actual client application that runs on all of our different platforms, and including XP and all of the around.
Yep.
And then we have Valkyrie, which does all of our file analysis and zero-day analysis.
It does.
And gives that information back to the client and to the rest of cloud. That sounds pretty spectacular.
It's pretty comprehensive. Yeah.
So I think the thing we should do now is we should kind of pitch this to John McIntosh, who is one of our distinguished SEs.
Yes.
And he's going to give you a little tour of the actual user interface and how it all kind of combines together, what Comodo Client looks like and how it works.
Yep.
And so, John, why don't we pitch it to you?
Thank you, Greg and Celine. That was a very informative session. Let's jump directly into it, shall we? ITN Security Manager unifies all the typical functionality you have around IT management and security management. And the first place that you land is right here on the Quick Start Guide, a wizard that allows you to understand how do you add users, enroll devices, configure device profiles, and then associate those profiles with the devices. So the place that you would go there first to go and add that user to the user list, and of course I have some pre-populated here, are these users. So you can create a user, and once that user is created, you simply click on Enroll Device. And using over-the-air enrollment in this case, there are many other ways of deploying, but in this case we'll use the over-the-air enrollment. And by simply clicking on an email, that device is enrolled. And what we want to do next is go to Device List, and you can see right here that this device is now listed. And all I need to do is click on that particular device and take a look at a few of the things I can do here. So now first, of course, I can manage the profiles. I can do full remote monitoring and management of a device, including complete takeover. I can install the MSI packages, so I can pull down packages for Active Directory, group policy pushes, and lots of the other ways that we may be using our solutions to deploy to the enterprise environments. There's sirens for anti-theft and finding devices, reboots, partial and corporate or full wipes of devices, and of course I can change owners of those devices from here. The first thing I want to do is go in and actually click on that device. And right here I can click on Manage Profiles. As you can see, I have a profile associated with that, which I've already created for this demonstration, but let's go ahead and go through it. Within this profile, we can give ourselves a little more real estate here for focus. I can specify proxies. I can do specific discovering settings here. I can export a profile, clone a profile, and delete a profile. In this case, of course, this is a clone of the recommended profile for Windows profiles. Here what we have is our patent pending automated containment. At Comodo, our default deny platform ensures that we can quickly take care of the known good because Comodo is uniquely positioned as the world's largest security certificate authority. And because of that, our insight of known good applications, publishers, and OS processes is unparalleled. And that allows us to quickly, with very low compute, be able to address that. The default deny platform ensures that unknown processes and executables never touch the endpoint, so this container essentially completely jails anything that's unknown. And at this point, it could be unknown good or unknown bad. And the unknown good and the unknown bad have to be analyzed without affecting the usability of the endpoint, which has always been the challenge. And by all other vendors, for the most part, I'd say 95% of what's out there is really a default allow. Even the whitelisting solutions ultimately let something through. In our case, we have a jailed process that gives you safe access to that application while we're continuing analysis. And you can make lots of exceptions here. You can decide what type of behavior. There are different rules that you can set up, so you have lots of options, so you can set them exactly how you want them set. But what we do is we combine the power of VirusScope and Valkyrie together to do local machine learning, artificial intelligence analysis for determining a verdict, and then we leverage our cloud-enabled analytic platform called Valkyrie to accelerate that verdict. I can use the file while Valkyrie is processing. Our average response from Valkyrie is 45 seconds. I'll let that sink in. That's 5 times faster than the competing solution. What that ultimately means is that unknown good file that's inside the sandbox, that's inside the automated container, does not have to remain in containment, affecting usability, and that unknown malware that was just identified through Valkyrie will be removed and doesn't get to continue to operate. This is a completely unique offering to Comodo. If we go to VirusScope, we can see right here that we can enable it, and we can decide we want to analyze applications within the container as well as outside of the container. So just because something starts outside the container and then infects an environment or attempts to, that doesn't mean that we're going to miss it. And if we go to Valkyrie, you can see that you have control over how exactly your environment looks up and submits files for automatic analysis, going to automatic and human experts, how complete you want to analyze a file, submit for scheduling, or do it immediately. And do I want to submit metadata along with that? So you have lots of control over exactly how that process works. There is also, of course, antivirus as far as being able to control real-time scanning optimization. So we do not require specialized hardware, but if there is something that allows us to take advantage of that performance, improving technologies, we'll definitely take advantage of that, as well as host intrusion prevention that allows us to do different type of models here. Paranoid mode, clean and safe, and it has protection mode heuristics, shellcode injections, and so on. And we can set up exclusions for custom stuff. And here's our rule sets. So now once we have this all set up, we can go back to that device list, and I can click on Manage Profiles. Click on Add Profiles, it's here. And then install the MSI package. Now, of course, I've already done that. It's kind of like a baking show. So what I can do now, and you'll see here that you have the endpoint installed, right? And this is going to show you right here that I have the known bad, I have firewall enabled, automatic containment, and machine learning with virus scope all enabled and all on premises. Or even if you're disconnected and you can't connect to Valkyrie, which is offered at a free level as well as a premium level, you'll have complete control over that. So now what I want to do is take you through a few things here. So once that data is installed, we have some dashboards. So from an executive perspective and from auditing and compliance, we have plenty of data here. This can all be customized by clicking on the customization. You can click on and off. There's compliance reports, which are complete with responses from virus scan, active devices, rooted and jailbroken devices, and devices with management apps, and so on. When it comes to what gets sent up to Valkyrie, very specific Windows devices or file statistics at all times and unparalleled protection by Comodo. Now the difference here is both what zero-day malware Comodo is detecting that no one else in the entire antivirus industry, as well as malware from your current vendor. We want to help you make the right decision. And of course, for reporting, you can generate lots of different reports, which you can see here. So now when it comes to the applications, you have the ability to take a look at the software publishers, trusted and untrusted. What files am I seeing in my environment that are unrecognized? So you have the ability and the capability within the product to know exactly what applications are unrecognized in your entire environment. What applications are trusted within your entire environment? For example, what known good am I seeing? What malware maybe that I'm seeing in my environment? And we see we have a few here. And I can decide, do I want to clear it, move to trusted or unrecognized, and I can take a look at what's been sent up to Valkyrie. Copy to clipboard, here's the signatures, and so on. And add a complete enterprise-wide visibility of show me everything that is unknown in my environment and everything in my entire environment that's running in containment right now. So this is running. Here's the file hash, and you can see I've been doing some testing here, and of course, when it comes to making sure that those vulnerabilities aren't available for that matter, you have patch management, generally speaking, here. But of course, when I go to the actual device, I can see this is patch management, specific to this particular machine and for the specific user. And I can also specify BYOD and decide, okay, what installation packages I want to install. Here's some critical ones: low, reboot pending, and the status. with lots of ways to actually go ahead and search through those. There is, of course, your whitelist store, so you can decide what applications are required for iOS and Android. And when I go to antivirus, or when I go to the malware analysis section here, I see a device list. This is telling me right here from a high level, I can say I want to do a quick scan, a full scan, stop a scan, rating based on known, unknown, malicious, and so on. And I can do an update globally from here. And this right here tells me, current malware list, tells me exactly what malware is running in my entire environment. I can decide quickly at a single click, quarantine that malware or delete it. And I can also historically see what threats have we seen in our environment and then clean the history for this particular file. And one last thing I suppose under here, under the user list, I have the ability to click on that user and of course see their entire digital footprint in my organization. If one device is compromised, more likely than not, so are the rest of them. So I can click on any particular user. Let's see Salim here, who has 4 associated devices. And we can see here are his 2 Windows machines, his iPhone and his MacBook, which are all supported. And here are some patches that are critical or that are necessary, and I can simply click into that one for that device, and here are the patches he needs. So now let's take it to a real live unscripted malware demo. Now, I don't know of any other vendor who's willing to take a real machine. This is a real machine, not a virtual machine. I'm connected to, over RDP, to a real Windows machine. Actually, it's my corporate machine. And this allows me, with Comodo's protection, to demonstrate that even on my real corporate machine, I'm not concerned about being infected because of the power of the default deny platform and the Valkyrie verdict-driven system. So what I can do here is go to a couple of these sites here, like malware.com and Malco database. And these are just third-party places where researchers upload malware. And I can just click on any one of these, and thankfully some folks I like to call it, this may be malware. Let's call it 10. Give it a unique name. Save, and let's go ahead and open it. This is where we have a little bit of fun here, but we're literally just taking any random malware and running it on this system without any worry or concern. Sometimes they just disappear because Comodo has already detected it as a known bad. It's not unknown, and that's totally expected. When you're running just random malware, of course we're going to pick up some of them and not pick up some of them. But what we can do save as, let's do 12. Oh, that's a good one. Continue, sure. And this one got wiped. So this was a known bad, and it's not available anymore because it got deleted by the Comodo endpoint. But we did pick up some of them here. And what I want to highlight is if I go to there's plenty of stuff here, so what I want to do is go back to see more. And you see here, this is the entire industry. So only 2 of 56 vendors actually detect this. So I'm going to click on that one. Hopefully we can download it. Let's save as this 12, save, and then we'll open it. And what I can do now is I can take a look at here at Valkyrie, our cloud-enabled sandbox, which does static and dynamic and even human analysis. And this allows us to see that it looks like number 10 actually came through, and we see that it's in queue. Now, one thing I could do is take a look at the info here and see this static analysis. Okay, what's going on? Overall verdict, signature-based detection. So highly suspicious dynamic analysis actually is what took to determine this one. Logs user keystrokes, reads the memory of another process, injects code into another process, has no visible window. So it's a subsystem, right? Most malware today is not jumping up and saying, "Hi guys, I'm here." In this case, what I can do is come over and copy it to the clipboard. If I need a copy, I can check on virus total. Let's do that in a new tab. I can save as a PDF. I can upload a new file. I can see here that 7 out of 57 don't see it. And if I go to Comodo, right here shows it's not detected. Perfect. So what I want to do now is go to, let's see, malware number 10. Let's go over to VertCryptor. This is a tool we have that will create a polymorphic string just to demonstrate how easy it is to create a piece of malware. I simply say browse, grab that particular file, open, send a query, and that's it. I just created a brand new version of the same malware, and this is all that attackers have to do. They simply say save as 10, it's done, and then I run it. And now what I want to do is go take a look at my endpoint, and at the endpoint, you'll see that if I click on tasks in the active processes, we're talking about automated containment. So I can tell right here under restrictions that it'll say fully virtualized or fully contained. And here we can see these are fully contained service hosts. But as you come down to the bottom, so what we can do now is actually right here we can open this up and just open that one up. Yeah, sure. Open up that one. Sure. Open up that one. Sure, yeah. Yeah. Open that one. So there's lots of stuff going on here now. I click on this. This doesn't look good. I say yes. You see the green border around that? Now, notice, if it's something like Microsoft Word or Excel, we don't need to put that entire thing in containment. We simply take what's malicious and put that in containment. If this green border is there, and that's something I can do, I can decide to have on or off. It ensures that I have no idea what this is. I'm just randomly clicking on it. Lots of malware. See those green borders? That means I'm protected. So now what I'll do is let me close these windows out. Let me close that out. And open up the Comodo client. And on the Comodo client, I'm going to show you that those active processes are here. So there's that malicious application, fully contained. It's considered unknown. This may be malware 11, and so on. And I can also take a look at the different logs. So if I want to look at those actual events against, let's say, has machine learning been applied to anything? Not this time. How about in containment? And I see all the stuff that's happened in containment here. And then I could just take a look at, what about this week? What about this month or this entire period? But ultimately, all I really have to do is go to Sandbox Tasks and click on Reset Sandbox or Reset Container. And when I reset that container, all the malware is gone, completely gone. It never touched a native system that needed to infect the machine. And so when I go back to General Tasks and view active processes, I no longer see it. Again, delivering on our default deny platform in our verdict-driven system, Comodo truly has a platform that is solving the malware problem for your enterprise. And I hope this will fuel the discussion for lots of great questions and answers. Thank you so much.
Thanks, John. Hey, that was a really great demonstration of the product, overview of the interface. I hope you all really enjoyed that. Yeah. One last thing we want to talk about before we let us go to Q&A here is STAP.
Yes.
Specialized Threat Analysis and Protection.
Yes, quite a mouthful.
It is a mouthful, and it's a kind of a term that IDC has coined about essential protection. So how does Comodo Advanced Endpoint fit into that whole STAP model?
That's a great question. So IDC has essentially said there are a couple of components or a few components to be able to address advanced threats. And those three categories in their terms are the boundary, internal network, and the endpoint. And Comodo has, according to the IDC, the only fully STAP compliant solution on the market today, which I was quite impressed by.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Pretty impressive. And that solution is called Comodo 360. 360 protection, right, for the 360 protection you need on your network. And Advanced Endpoint, Comodo Advanced Endpoint Protection fulfills the endpoint component of that, along with, on the internal network, you have Comodo Sea-Watch, and you also have Comodo Dome at the boundary. And these components, this broader solution, provides a comprehensive protection against both known and unknown threats, whether you're on the network, you're off the network, or even if you're just a visiting contractor and don't have any Comodo software installed on your endpoint.
That's pretty awesome.
Pretty awesome.
And you know what? We actually have a whole other webinar on just Comodo 360. So I invite you, the audience out there, to go out and take a look. It's actually hosted by our very own John Peterson, JP. Yep. He'll talk all about how Comodo 360 works and how full STAP compliance can be done with Comodo 360. Salim? Hey, I want to thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Greg.
You've been very, very knowledgeable. And now what we're going to do is we're going to switch gears a little bit and we're going to go to the Q&A. So Q&A is not going to be on camera. Q&A is actually going to be in the little chat box there. So go ahead and start typing your questions if you haven't done so already. And we'll see you guys online and we'll answer all your good questions there. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.